connect it to Cold Spring Harbor, New York, and then you're going to connect it to the Nazis in Germany at the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute. All this stuff is intermixed, and it is so complex that that's what protects it, because you get to studying this stuff and you think, I'm getting a headache just reading this stuff.
Wow. I remember telling someone, even when we saw Mark Twain, I said, do you realize Mark was working on this thing, and that was just one chapter of a book he was doing.
Right.
That was just from, and he would look at it, and I just want to ask Randy, just so we could just make it plain for little old Johnny Hunter here. You are saying that when people fund March of Dimes, some of their monies are actually being used for severed head experiments.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's important to know of let me make two remarks, which I probably should have opened with. And number one, these so-called multi-million-dollar public health charities, there's nothing charitable about them, and there's nothing healthy about them. What their mainstay is good public relations, which is essential to keep these organizations going. They have high-salaried national offices. They have bloated staffs. So it's really important to keep the money coming. And money is the name of the game. And these if they have a research disaster, which they had with the Salk vaccine, they cover it up and they pass failures off as on a as I said, absolute gullible public.
Right. Well, I think one of the problems is, and you kind of touched on it a minute, Randy, I don't think it's totally that they're gullible. I think we have devolved into a society whose only concern is self-interest, and whose moral principle is based on utilitarianism. So in other words, we can look out here at abortion, or at the things you're talking about, or at the things we exposed in the baby parts deal, and say, people can say, oh yeah, that's not good. I'm not proud of that. I'm not proud that I live in a country that does those things, or a government that funds it, or these organizations that get tax-exempt status to do these things. But on the other hand, there's some good that can come from this. If we can cure Parkinson's, if we can cure AIDS, if we can cure Alzheimer's, if we can cure blindness and cancer, and look, we wiped out polio. Well, I'm proud that we wiped out polio. My mother had polio, so I'm glad we wiped out polio. But I think the thing that we have to always do here is say, at what cost do these things occur? In other words, if we can say we can wipe out cancer, but the cost of that will be a moral depravity of epic proportions, is that worth it?
Well, Mark, most people don't weigh that. No. They catch.
That's what I'm saying.
They catch a 30-second TV commercial during an NFL game, and they say donate to March of Dimes, and they drag out some children with polio or cystic fibrosis or something, or somebody with cancer, and then the people go, gosh, that's horrible. I'd like to see these young kids grow up and play football. I'm going to give them $25.
Do you guys have an online presence as far as getting this message out, social networking to the younger generation?
Yes, we do. We have the U.S. Coalition for Life archives, actually, and that's at www.uscl.info.
Do you have like a Facebook page, though?
No, we don't yet, but the information that we do have on the March of Dimes, including the Adams Grant and all this information, the information on the Association for Retarded Citizens, all this information is available through the archive.
Yeah, I want to work with you to do that because, I mean, I've been in the pro-life movement for 12, 15 years now. I feel old, but we need this information out there on Facebook because you've got a whole new generation. We have causes on Facebook where you can, at a moment's notice, a cause can give $10 to this organization. And you have millions of people in these causes. Yeah. We need an anti-cause for this.
Randy, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, we thought we lost you there for a second.
I want to know if your average person you come in contact with and share this stuff with, do they find it hard to believe? Because I've found people that are in disbelief that Tiller did what he did. They can't believe that.
Actually, I would say as a rule, when they read the March of Dimes primer, which is the A to Z of eugenic killing on the March of Dimes, we get an instant convert. The only people that so far we've been unable to convert, having read the information, are those who are hired employees of the March of Dimes.
Well, listen.
It seems that if they're making their living off baby killing, they're less likely to be influenced. But your average American, when they are faced with the evidence, they don't contribute to the March of Dimes anymore. They go over to the alternative, which is, of course, the International Foundation for Genetic Research, popularly known as the Michael Fund. So we do have an alternative, and that's probably as good a message. Part of the message is not only are we condemning the March of Dimes for its eugenic policy, but we're also doing something along the positive line by providing a pro-life alternative.
Good.
Well, listen, Randy, we're going to put the website up there again, this uscl.info, and you just keep up the good battle. I mean, it's amazing when you start getting in these life issues, how many facets there are to it. You know, everybody's doing something, and as long as somebody's doing something, I don't care what it is, just get out there and expose these things and keep fighting away.
Well, we'll certainly be fighting for life because it's really a fight for God.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Randy.
You're very welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You know, it's taken so long to really sully the name of Planned Parenthood. Yeah. But it's come so far. And I think it will not take as long to get March of Dimes.
Yeah, this is, to me, what's upsetting about hearing all this is why don't other pro-lifers know about this? We've got to get it from the website to the people.
Fighting each other.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. We have this stuff on the website, but we've got to get it to the people because people aren't. You've got to find a way to drive people to your
don't
website.
Read.
Yeah,
people don't read, and that's why my Alpha 21 needs to be shown.
We need videos.
That's why we did it as a video.
Absolutely.
When we, it was your idea to do a.
This is why I love interns because I'm going to have one of them on this project.
Right, but we took out. You said take out that one chapter when I was showing you this whole book and make a book out of it. And Pastor Broden said, if you make a book out of it, blacks won't ever see it. So we got to do a DVD.
Make a book, you'll hide it from a lot of people.
Right.
That's frustrating. For years I've been saying, don't give to these societies. And it's like, oh, Kristen, with your crazy conspiracy theories
Well, like
about.
there's Coleman, United Way, all of that.
I mean, all these we know, but we don't have a quick and easy way. I can't give somebody a primer that's 30 pages and say, read all this, and then you'll convert to my way of thinking. We need to say, no, bam, bam, bam. Here are 3 reasons why you should not donate to the March of Dimes.
That's right.
And here's your alternative.
And of course, in the days, that's why we made MAFA 21 like we did. You've got to have it, have a certain cadence to it. It's got to be fast-paced. You got to carry people very quickly, or else you lose their attention span. We're just about out of time, but I wanted to bring up something here that I found pretty interesting. In the Journal of Health and Social Behavior, in June of 2009, they released a study that they had been conducting, and I don't know anything about the people who did this study. They may be pro-abortion or they may be anti-Christian people. But basically, the study shows that abortion rates are higher among girls in Christian schools than in girls in public schools. Yep. And, I mean, I read the report, and some of the stuff in there is basically what we've all said. The church has lost its way. Right. The church is not doing its job, and they're basically reaffirming it.
Let's set something to that.
Okay, what?
You're missing the fact that there's these churches, these Christian schools that we go on to organize. They refuse to address the situation because they do not want to feel like they're condoning it. So it's not like they're for abortion. You have very pro-life people in these administrations, but they're not coming out and saying, here's a way to go, here's somewhere to go for help. And that's what we're missing. Because if you talk to these people and say, oh, of course I'm against abortion. Of course, but I can't put up the poster for option line because that sends a signal that we're condoning premarital sex. So I believe that study is probably very close to correct.
Christian
I
school
think
that
it is
kicks
too.
pregnant girls
yes,
out.
Because it's not necessarily the school doesn't have to be pro-abortion.
Yes.
Because sometimes Christian schools are pro-abortion, but a lot of them are truly pro-life. They don't know how to deal with and reconcile the fact that premarital sex is coming on.
No, I think
true.
that this report is very accurate, and the people who wrote it may be very prejudiced. I don't know. They may be anti-Christian, but the fact is, I think that the facts that we see in here, I don't think we can dispute, and it goes back to something. I think. Well, when we operated the Crisis Pregnancy Center here in Denton, we have the big Christian school here, a very good Christian school. My daughter went to it from kindergarten on. And if you think we didn't see girls in there from Liberty Christian School, you're nuts. We did.
Right.
And I think that one of the things that we have to be very careful about, I've talked about this on the show before, we cannot condone premarital sex, getting pregnant before you're married, all these other things. But if we continue to go out here and tell people that a girl getting pregnant at 15 years old is the end of the world,
Right.
then we're creating the situation where she goes to the abortion clinic.
Mark, let me share
It
something
is
with
not
you.
the end of the world.
In San Diego, Pastor Leo Giovanetti, huge church. I'm in his church on Sunday. He stands up and he's preaching a sermon. He says, you know what the worst thing to happen to a pastor? His daughter get pregnant.
Right.
And I rebuked him after that service. I said, that is the most insane thing.
Does he have a daughter?
I think he does.
He's
But
telling her to have an abortion.
He's driving her. You are driving her to the abortion clinic right now.
Some of these Christian schools should just have shuttle buses to Planned Parenthood because they say if you get pregnant out of wedlock, you are to leave school. That's telling the woman, look at the Palin debate and look what's going on right now
How
with
about the Christian
Letterman.
schools teach abstinence and say, look, this
Well, they
is what
do.
you
Most of
do,
them
and
do.
this
To their
is
credit, a lot of them
this
do.
is what happens.
But they
then
fail
we need to help.
to tell people what happens when you make that mistake because they don't want to look like they're condoning the actions, so they forget to tell people and they do not acknowledge it. It's the same thing happened to
the day that I
Palin
met
debate.
Cherie, this issue came up. I was doing a speech for Christ for the Nations here in Dallas, a college that's supposedly hardcore pro-life. They go to all the pro-life events and all this. I can't remember.
Had you do a seminar there?
Yeah, they had me do a pro-life seminar there all day. At lunch, I went to lunch with the guy who had actually arranged for me to be there, and I think he was the dean of students, if I'm not mistaken. And Cherie was one of the people who went to the thing. That's how I stumbled across her. Anyway, yeah. At lunch, he happened to bring up that Christ for the Nations had this policy that a pregnant girl could not go to class.
Exactly.
And I said, wait a minute. You're saying that a girl, if you found a girl's pregnant, she can't go to class. He said she can't go to her